Welcome back to another video, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Here I am, Literary Pharaoh. I wanted to talk about I'm on my way to work this morning. I just had some things just rummaging through my head, and I wanted to talk about them. And it's just infatuation that we have as Americans, as people, with latching ourselves onto this victimhood mentality. And we understand in life, you have, even in the natural order, in terms of the ecosystem, when you go out in the wild, you have prey, you have predators, you have apex predators, you have preys, you have the strong, the weak, and it's just a cycle of life. You know, you're always going to have somebody that's coming after you, and at times you're going to have things in place that you are going after. It's just the way life is. The reason why I'm talking about this is because the LGBTQI, whatever, the letter community, they're the most overhyped, oversensitive community that's ever graced the face of this planet. Their cause is more noble than the small hats. Their cause is more noble than the plight of the African Americans. Their plight is much worse than the Native Americans. And it just seems as if they created their own propaganda, created their own narrative, and built a system that's ironclad that you can't go against. If you say anything remotely confrontational, or anything that's close to being something that seems to be on the negative side towards that community, the LGBTQI, whatever, all those letters, then you're deemed to be a bigot, or whatever they want to call you. They name call. And they're so overprotected. But I think that in this country that we live in, that seems to be the normal path for most people, is to take on the victimhood mentality, the victimization mentality. Because if you're a victim, then everyone comes to your aid. If you're a victim, no one could speak out openly and freely about anything. The lore of critique is killed. No one can say anything that's critical. People have to say things that's favorable, and I think that's not reality. That's not something that we should praise. I think there has to be an even balance with everything that we have in life. There's no such thing as everything's always good all the time. The reason why we allow for criticism and why critique is taken as a accentuating component is because without critique, how do we improve? Without criticism, how do we look to improve or evolve? How do we ascend into a higher level of operation as human beings? When you look at the Olympics and the boxing Olympics, you have a transgender female. In other words, you have a person who was born a male. Testosterone, bone density of a male, genetics of a male, chromosomes of a male. But that person decides to go through a operation, all right, gender dysmorphia, to morph themselves into another gender. Now, no one cares about that. I don't think that people who speak out against the movement of the LGBTQ are against people doing what the hell they want to do. I always believed that the angst and the pushback against that was because it seems like the ideology and the philosophy of that community was being pushed upon people to accept it. I don't have to accept shit. Look, my skin color, a lot of people don't accept me because of my skin color. And I don't force them to accept me because of that. I just operate accordingly. I look at the reality of my environment and I adapt and I adjust and I operate accordingly. It is that simple. I don't have to force people to like me. I don't have to force people to agree with me. I don't have to put my ideology and philosophy inside schools and force schools to teach that to children. See, that's the pushback. It was a slow, systematic, structured attack upon the minds of the youth to grow up in the world where seeing things as such were deemed to be normal. See, when things are normal, you don't need to teach that because it just jives with things that are normal. It's normal to eat. It's normal to drink water. It's normal to go to sleep. Okay? Things that are normal you don't need convincing when things are normal. But for some reason, the LGBTQI or whatever their community is, they love to insert their ideology inside, the public stratosphere. They love the schools. They love to get to the young children. They use commercials to slowly desensitize the mind to something that's abhorrible, something that looks disgusting. You know disgusting when you see it. You don't have to condition the mind to get used to seeing something that's disgusting, because no matter how far you go with the conditioning, inside and innately, inside the minds or inside the genetic makeup of all humans, in terms of our psyche and how it's currently constructed, we know what disgusting is. Okay? There are few out there, the outliers, who might deem those acts to be something that's normal or something that's applaudable, but it's not. Some people call it a mental disease of a person wanting to switch their gender. Some people think it's hormonal. I think it's a mixture of both. I think that people are born that way. The spiritual community feel like they need to pray it out of you. No, I don't say leave people alone. If someone's born with a deformity, we don't applaud the deformity and force the rest of the world, which is the majority, to bend and capitulate to the deformity. We try to help the person that's deformed, and we create systems, putting things in place to allow those people who have the deformity to function in that society with relative ease. That's what we go for. Just like when you go to a restaurant or you go to a public place, they have certain things that are built for people who have wheelchairs. They have a ramp. They may not have steps. They may have a ramp where you can wheel somebody into the building. Things like that. Making adjustments to physical buildings to allow people who have a deformity or a disability to enter with relative ease. People are not against people choosing to be homosexuals or choosing to change their gender. That's never been the issue. Now, we can have our opinions about it, but we don't hate those people. They're people. And if they have a mental illness or if they have a hormonal deficiency, we shouldn't cast stones at those people. We should look at them with a degree of pity, no different than we look at a person who's in the hospital who has a sickness, who has an illness. It's not their fault. When people say that I was born this way, believe them. When people have gone through certain things in their lives, or perhaps something that's traumatic, something that they've been through, maybe they were sexually abused when they were children, and for somehow someone that had a traumatic effect on them, and now they choose to be more closely attracted to the same sex, man, or be it girl, whatever it is. We don't look at them like there's something, why are you doing that? That's a sin. You're going to go to hell. I don't come at it from that angle, and I think most people don't. I think the problem is when you try to take something that's the outlier. Because if you poll, the majority of the world are what I would use the scientific terminology, heterosexual. So meaning that a heterosexual male is not homo. It's not the same. A heterosexual male likes the female. A heterosexual female would like a male. They like their opposite. As a matter of fact, is the reason the opposition attracting to each other is what causes life. Now, of course, we have these scientific means where people can artificially inseminate someone's body with a baby and plant sperms inside eggs and all that stuff. But the natural order, we're talking about without the intrusion of science. The only way life can continue on this planet is it's the push for the heterogeneous or the heterosexual union to be applauded. That should be applauded because that's what brings life. Everyone that's a gay, everyone that's a homosexual, everyone that's a transgender came in his life through the pathway of a heterosexual relationship. Homosexual relationships, they do not produce life. So I don't think people are against those people making their choices. People make their choices every day. It's that just don't bring that into my home or bring that into schools and to condition minds to view that as something that's normal. But people don't want to call it for what it is. It's a disorder. It's a mental disease. It's hormonal. What makes me sound the way I sound is because I'm a man. I have testosterone. I didn't ask to be this way. I was born this way. So the way, when people say I was born this way, they were. But just because you're born that way doesn't make it normal. No different than a person being born with autism makes it normal. Now, we do certain things to allow people who have autism to function, because I know they perhaps might have a lot of social cognitive disorders, and we try to insert things to help them navigate this life. But we don't tell the world to capitulate to that autistic child and make everyone uncomfortable to make the autistic child comfortable. That's not the way it works. The normal world will function the way it's supposed to function. And the autistic child has to amalgamate or infuse themselves into reality the best way they can, into the social strata, and function within that paradigm the best way they can, while the majority of the world are doing things to make it easier for that person. But we're not going to go out of our way to make it seem as if being autism is normal. And if anyone speaks out against autism by saying that it's a disorder, and that person is censored or that person is canceled. And I think that's the overt practices of this victimization, victimization that the LGBTQ they love to put upon themselves. It's overt because it's so extreme that any modicum of sense that's trying to be inserted into it, any sense, it's just cast out. So if you speak from a logical perspective, a transgendered female, meaning they were born a male, in the Olympics, is boxing. So you have a man boxing, punching women. Now you may say, well, it's transgender. They changed your sex. Yeah, you can change. And I'm not a scientist. I'm not a geneticist. I don't claim to be any of that. But I'm just speaking from an average layman's perspective. There's nothing you can do externally that's going to change your DNA internally. You can take things to mess around with your hormones. You can take things that changes your sex. You can take things that decreases your testosterone. But no matter what you do, you would never be truly a female. And even though you may make yourself look like a female, sound like a female, you may do things to lose your muscular striations. You may do things to look more feminine and sound more feminine. But innately, you're still a man. You may be more woman than man, but you still have more man in you than a normal woman. Let me say that again. A woman that's born a female, that's who she is, right? If a man is born a man and he decides to go through the process of chemical augmentation and taking chemicals to change chromosomes, to change, their hormones, and they go through the sex change, whatever they do. No matter how much female they put inside themselves artificially, they still have more man in them than the natural born woman. So essentially, that's a disadvantage. Because you cannot completely eradicate the male hormone. You can't take it completely away. You can diminish it, you can suppress it, you can conceal it, you can diminish it to the point where it's non-observant. And you may think that, this person is totally changed. No. Innately, that's still a man. So when you put a man in a boxing ring to fight a female in the Olympics, and you claim that man as a woman, how is that not a symptom of mental disease, of a mental disease, not only from the transgendered person, but from the world in itself. The world is mentally disabled. The world is retarded. The fact that that's acceptable. Now, if that female, the natural born female, is killed in the ring or demolished, they'll say, oh, well, I guess that experiment didn't work. See, we try things and we experiment things, and we experiment with things. We see, oh yeah, how far can it go? We don't need to do that. We understand that what you are is what you are. You can do that. When you try to insert yourself inside sports, insert yourself inside competition. You remember the swimmer that was a man swimming with females? Disgusting. But see, I'm not a big YouTuber, so I don't have to worry about anyone coming after me or attacking me, because there are certain people who have certain platforms that they've asked this question to. What's your take on the transgender boxer boxing females, fighting females in the boxing ring in the Olympics? They give these politically correct answers. Well, I don't know how it feels, or options. No, just say the damn truth. I guess that's the way. And that's why I've always said this. I said this before a long, long time ago when I had my my Rumble. I was a Rumble initially before I started doing more YouTube stuff. I said that this social media thing with YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, as interesting as it is and as exciting as it is, a lot of people use it. Millions of people use it. I believe that it's a way. I think and I believe that it's a way to control people. You say how? Well, if you have a large platform and your platform and your social media account is monetized, and you use that social media apparatus for a source of income, if that's your mode of income, then you're going to be controlled. You say how? Well, if that's your source of income, whenever a hot button topic is brought up, you're going to be forced to do one or two things. You're either going to acquiesce to the popular narrative, meaning that you go along with the get along because you don't want to say anything that's going to be too controversial because you're afraid that your monetized social media network may be canceled. Or two, you're going to be bold and just say what the fuck you feel. Excuse my language. You're going to say how you feel. And you don't care about the repercussions. Most people go with option A because they don't want to lose their cash. That's the way you control narratives. When I hear people being asked questions on their YouTube channel, people who have 500,000 to 1 million followers, they're not going to say something that makes sense. They're going to go along with that victimization mentality and say, oh, leave these people alone. Let them do what they want. No one's saying that. Let them do what they want. Yes, don't infuse your insanity and your mental illness into competition, because now you're starting to corrupt competition. How is that a fair fight? A woman fighting a man? I mean, I don't know. But that's why I started this video by talking about the obsession with loving the idea of being victims, because it comes with a lot of perks. There's this one group of people, the small hats, they love to play the victim card. They use that to get whatever the hell they want. And it goes much deeper. They control everything, to be honest with you. I've told people that I've worked with that you guys are acting shocked at what the government does, not knowing that the government that we have currently is a foreign government. The government we have is not a United States government. The government we have is treasonous. It's not even an American government. It all started back when the Niji were here in America. The original foundational Black Americans who were here before any European even graced this land. United States of America. America was called Turtle Island. The name of it was not called America. It was just given that name because they want to attribute the finding of that country to this Italian, this Caucasian named Amerigo Vespucci, this Italian. So they named it America. They changed the name. So when they changed the name, they wrote into the name their own government for a new name. They remixed it. They changed the image. What they did, it's sort of like me going into I'll give you an example to make this a little bit more comprehensible for you guys that are listening. So it's sort of like me going to a building, right? A building already has its name. I'm gonna give it a name. I'm gonna call it let me make up a name. Okay, let's say the building is called Business of Marketing, or Marketing Business. It's called a Marketing Business, and it has its original name, and it already has its original employees already in there. But I come with my people, right? And I come with my people, but I want that building. It's not mine. It already has its name. So what I start to do, I start to infiltrate the individual members. I start to plant seeds of doubt. I have ill motive to start up a coup to overturn the system, in hopes that I can change the name into what I want, because I know if I could change the name, I could rewrite the bylaws, the statutes of that business, because I've given it a new name. No longer does the old name even apply. So over time, I galvanize groups, I infiltrate, I start protesting and going through things. It's a long process. So to make a long story short for this example, so I could drive this home so you guys can comprehend this, the name of the building no more is called Business of Marketing, or Marketing of Business. I changed it to something else, right? So once I change the name, now I can start writing new laws about the new building that I just created. All right, now, by default, by natural order, whatever was old is now obsolete. It's gone. It doesn't matter anymore. The new name is what matters. Now with a new name, I can rewrite history. I can rewrite my story, his story, history. I can rewrite history for that new building that I just created, and slowly conceal the past history of that building. So I've changed the name. No more is it called Marketing of Business. Now I call it, I don't know, Business of the People. I changed it to Business of the People. Now, when new people start to come, they start to see the new name. Oh, this place used to be called Marketing Business, but now it's called Business of the People. But over generations and generations and decades, the true history of that building is concealed and compressed and hidden from the people. Media is now being used as an agent of conditioning to only put forth the things that are predicated about the new building. So history books are written about the new building. No one talks about the old building anymore. So now that you have a new building, people think that that's the way it's always been, and now you can write history and write narratives that talks about the new building as if the new building was always what it was. That's what happened to America, or AKA Turtle Island. The foundational black people were already here. The government that we have here was put here to bring in foreigners, Slavs, Europeans, the Pilgrims, the Africans. The Europeans that came over here are the true Africans. They come from that landmass. They come from the African landmass. Even the way that our map is currently constructed, the way we look at our maps is not even accurate. We've been totally effed. We've been lied to so much that if we were given the truth about all the lies that we were told in one day, I believe that 3/4 of Americans would just collapse. They would literally collapse. They would just faint. It's too much to handle when you realize the depth of how much we've been lied to. So then now we have one group that's untouchable, the small hats, and we have a government here in America that's foreign, that's ran by the small hats, the Israelites, and people who in Israel. The Israel Mossad and the CIA are in cahoots. Presidents, prime ministers are just puppets. They're just faces. Bankers rule the world. Most bankers are small hats. They run the system. Most music execs, entertainment executives are small hats. They own the entertainment industry. They own the majority of the media. Actually, they own all the media. So you may think you have free speech. You may think that, oh, I have a TikTok account, or I have a YouTube account, or I have an Instagram account, and I can freely talk about what I want to talk about. Yeah, you can do that. They give you a little bit of free reign within their control, but there are certain things that you're not going to be allowed to talk about. If you're big time. If you're small time, you can get away with it. When your algorithm starts to grow and your content starts to permeate through many different accesses where people can access you and you become more accessible, then when that happens, then you better believe that your content is going to be monitored. And when you say things that's contrary to the popular narrative, you will be attacked on site. You'll be canceled. And if you're canceled, there goes your money. So that's how they control the narrative. That's how they control people. There's no free speech in America, folks. Now, free speech is controlled. You give people the idea, all right? You give them the idea that they have free speech. And an idiot will go along with that. Look at my free speech. I can say what I want. Yeah, you can say what you want. Just as long as you don't say this or that or that. So how is that free? Once you start having limitations of what you can say within your free speech, and it's no longer free speech. When you can get canceled for saying what you feel, that's not free speech. Everything you say comes at a cost. And it's just insane. And I implore my people, when I say my people, I'm talking about people that look like me. Call it black, melanated people, whatever. People who look like me, the Niji, the foundational black Americans, or even if you're from Africa and you're in this country, like I am, I'm a Nigerian. I just tell you guys, do not get sucked into this victimhood mentality. This idea that bad things are happening to me because somebody's putting me down. The white man's putting me down, or racism is what's holding us back. And we understand there's certain things, some certain underlying things that we don't understand. Things that are done in a certain way that are manipulative to the naked eye. And you have to comb deeper and see the diabolical configuration of the system and how it's systematically put here to make sure that certain people don't ascend. But it's not just catered, it's not just something that's done against black people, it's something that's done against all people. There are certain groups of people who just have a privilege. And I'm not calling it white privilege. I'm not going to call it white privilege. It's just certain people who have privileges, certain groups of people, and mostly foreigners. This country's built for foreigners. That's why they come here to get the AIDS, to get the Medicaid, to get the debit cards, to get the housing, they get all that stuff. While the people who are here in this country who are working hard don't get shit. We don't get anything. We don't get anything. We don't get any assistance. It's not for us. It's never been for us. Just like the foundational blacks who were here when America was allowing foreigners to come here, the whites who were the Slavs, who were the slaves, because the slave narrative is totally backwards. Not saying there were no black slaves, but back then slavery was a form of work, it was a form of employment. It was a form of indentured servitude. All right, and just like I'm going to work right now, that's part of slavery, because if I don't go to work, my house is taken. You say, how? Well, if I can't pay my bills, don't they come and take the house? And the house that I bought doesn't even necessarily belong to me. The house that I bought belongs to the banks, because if I don't pay on it, the banks will do what? They'll come take the home. So we don't really own anything. And even after you've paid off your home, you still have to pay taxes, which is another illegal construct. The IRS is not even a part of the government. It's a private institution that has nothing to do with the government. It's totally a fictitious entity, and we've allowed them to rob us. They're thieves. And a lot of people get upset and say, well, why are there so many criminals? Why are people stealing? Why are people scamming? Well, the reason why people are stealing and scamming because the IRS, the government, has created a system where they are the number one thieves. They are the number one crooks. So when you have the leaders, when you have those who are up top doing all the stealing and doing all the criminal activity, it's only appropriate, it's only natural, it's only a natural sequence of events that will occur in time that will start to allow people to start to operate the way their leaders operate. The apple never falls too far from the tree. You created a system of greed and corruption, so therefore people are forced to be greedy and corrupt. If you create a system that was fair, you wouldn't have people that would be stealing. I don't blame people for scamming. It's not good. Scamming, you cause other people to be victims who had nothing to do with your plight, who had nothing to do with your struggle. We're all struggling here. Now, some people are doing better than others, but don't steal from people. But I can see why people steal. I can empathize. You know why? Because the government steals from us. IRS steals from us. Have you ever looked at your paycheck? Have you ever looked at what you're really supposed to be getting paid? You see how much taxes they take off? And then we get all happy during income tax season as if we're getting everything back. You're not even getting a tenth back of what they've taken from you. Have you ever looked at your interest rates on your credit cards? Do you have student loan debt? I'm sure you do. I know I do. I'm sure I do. I know I do. I have over $100,000 in debt because I decided to go to school. I have 2 master's degrees, one in education administration and one in health informatics. I decided to do that, but like an idiot, I'm paying for it. College is also a scam. The banking system is a scam. America is a effing scam. It is. And I just think that there are not enough people. There are too many ignorant people who just go along, who've just totally given up. And that's what the slave mentality is. The slave mentality is not a black person talking about the white man's putting me down. The slave mentality is all people accepting the BS as if the BS is normal. Accepting being stolen from as if that's normal. Oh, well, that's just the way it is. We can't do anything about it. Yes, you can. If the majority of people in the world would just have an uprising and say, F this, we're not paying taxes. We're not going to do any of this. Nobody goes to work. The system is killed and crushed. Think about this for a second. When a wild storm comes in, when they deem it a natural disaster, and there's nothing natural about natural disasters, it's all controlled weather. Look about it. Every time I talk about a new topic, it seems like I always have to preface it with, that's not what it is. I could spend hours on this video telling you about the things that you think are true and how false they are. Weather, education system, the government, politics, you name it. Everything that you could think of is not what it is. It's all lies. And I think that's the contention, and I think that's what causes our death and our demise, because innately in us, we're wired to function off of truth. A frequency of truth and frequency of honesty and frequency of factual things. And I think when we constantly live in a world where we're being lied to all the time, when we end up operating off of foundational lies, it causes a seismic shift in the equilibrium of the mind. And when the mind is impacted, the body is impacted. This is a realm of epigenetics that many people don't understand. When the mind is impacted, the body is impacted. And when the body is impacted, there you go. I believe that all of us, including me, we are operating underneath lies. But we've accepted the lies as truths. When you do that, you are already an autoimmune disease. You are already a disease to your own self, because you've accepted something that's not true, taking it as truth, and then operating your life off of that lie. So that means that everything that you do is nonsensical. It's not self-serving. It doesn't build oneself. It's for your own demise. It's for your own destruction. That's what we're doing. So I know I've gone on a rant on this video. I didn't have a sequence of events, but I started off with the victimization thing with the LGBTQ community and how that doesn't make sense, because they're not truly victims. No one's going around beating or killing them. No one's hanging them. They're not slaves. They have the same amount of freedoms as I have. No one discriminates against them. You know, people have their opinions. It seems like they don't want you to have an opinion. They just want you to accept them and love it. No, I don't have to love that shit. I don't have to love that. I don't have to love the idea of 2 men being together. That's disgusting to me when I see that. I don't have to love the idea of a man on TV with a mustache, with hair. They want me to call them, like, it's a clown show. It's a mental illness. And we need to acknowledge it for what it is and accept it for what it is. No different than we accept the person who's born intellectually disabled and we try to help them. We don't sit there and applaud them for being disabled as if that's a badge of honor, so to speak, as if, oh, you've come out of the closet, you're so brave for being your true self. Nah. Yeah, but I believe people are born that way. I don't think it's a choice. It's not a choice. I didn't choose to be attracted to females. I just am attracted to them. I'm not attracted to men. It's not a choice I'm making. So today I'm going to be attracted to a man. Tomorrow I'm going to be attracted to a woman. No, I'm constantly 24/7 attracted to women. Period. That's the way I am. And the same thing as a person being born, a man being attracted to men. It's hormonal. They even have foods, chemical things that are your hormones could be changed by you being chemically induced by the foods that you consume. Certain things could decrease your testosterone as a man and increase your estrogen, and you end up being more feminine. They have foods that cause it. They have chemicals. They even have pesticides. I think one of it is called atrazine, I believe that's the name of it. It's a popular pesticide that they spray on. They used to spray on plants, and people eat it over time. That can impact you. You say, "Oh no, man, that's not true." Okay. Didn't they conduct some experiment on an amphibian, on a frog? A frog was male, and they turned the frog into a female over time through experimentation by giving it certain foods, by giving it certain chemicals. It happens. It happens. It happens, man. But yeah. Don't play the victim. And even though you may know certain truths about how certain races are being victimized, especially the foundational blacks in America, but it's time to stop talking. I think that we're such a melting pot now that those lines of distinctions are being blurred. So no more can we just stand on race and use race as a means to be tribal, because that's what the controllers want. The more divided we are, the easier it is to divide us and conquer us. I think we have one enemy. I believe we have one enemy, but until we can come together and stop this victimization nonsense, then we're always going to be divided, because there's going to be one group feeling like they're oppressed and another group feeling like they're being blamed for it. Then you have this, this separation and this divide and this push for classifications, putting people into their own clusters and identifying them by their clustered name. You're this, you're liberal, you're conservative, you're this group, you're this group. It's nonsense. We are part of a social experiment, and it's working very, very well. I have to applaud the constructors of the system. It's extraterrestrially based. And it doesn't take much to do it, because these extraterrestrial beings are light years much more intelligent than we are. But it didn't require like hard work for them to control us, because it's simple. We're simpletons. We're very emotionally charged and driven, and we get manipulated very easily. If you ever look into Operation Mockingbird, and you will see how the CIA has used many of these things to condition the minds of the people. And media is a mechanism. Medium is a means to really use it, because media is a quick way to reach the masses. And even if you may not watch media, you're going to be surrounded by people who've watched media, who talk to you from the media's perspective. They slant. They create the narrative. As a matter of fact, like I told you guys earlier, all of the media companies are owned by the small hats. You say, who are the small hats? Well, look it up on Google, because I can't say their names. Because if you say their names, you may get deemed as being a person that's anti-Semitic. It's nonsense. There's a saying that goes, if you want to know who controls you, find out who you can't criticize. You can't criticize the small hats. So I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not a genius by any stretch of the imagination, but I do understand that there's a certain group that you can't say anything about. And the Holocaust too, that's a whole nother thing that I could talk about here, but I have to tread lightly, because the story of the Holocaust is not what you guys think it is. Everything's set up to allow us to be in a state of thinking, to allow us to be in this mode of thinking that we are today. Things have been set up in the past to dictate the minds of today. Things have been set up. That means we've been lied to about the past. The past has been contorted and twisted and manipulated to create a certain present and to prognosticate what type of future you're going to have. People talk about Obama being the first black president. Okay. But do you know he's also the first? Well, many of you guys think Michelle is a woman anyway, so it's a clown show. It's a clown show. That's why I'm very I look at Dan Calloway's channel at times and I'm like, why are you even spending time talking about politics? I guess he needs the views. I mean, that's where he eats. He writes a book, he makes content, so I can't get mad at him for trying to eat, trying to get his bills paid. And speaking from my vantage point, I'm a nobody on YouTube. I don't make money off of my videos. I just do this because I'm passionate about it. I just talk. Whether I have 1 view or 2 views, I'm still going to do these videos. And I find it very alarming to see him talking about politics where he knows that the government, I mean, I learned from him that the government is foreign. So if you know the government is foreign, Dan Calloway, why even talk about Kamala Harris and Biden and Trump? Like, why? You're doing exactly what everybody else is doing. It's all a trap. It's a spell. It's witchcraft, a sorcery. Politics is rooted in demonic inceptions. It's a demonic constructed system. It's not what you think it is. To be politics, to be polemic, it means to banter, to go back and forth. It's a game. It's table tennis. It's a sport. These people are freaking actors. They're not politicians. You have 2 segments of people that are involved in the realm of politics. You have those who try to go about it the genuine route, go to school, major in certain things so they could be into politics. Some of them go to law school. We get that. Then you have the other side of it that are just people are just actors. They're manufactured. The system is compromised, folks. Like that, ladies and gentlemen, what you see politics for what it is today is not what you think it is. These aren't super smart people who just know. No, these are people that are given scripts to read. These are freaking actors that failed at whatever they were trying before in life. And these people come from strong families. They have strong bloodlines. It's all manipulation, folks. This is not what you think it is. Yeah, I'm gonna go into politics and make change. I'm gonna be a mayor. I'm gonna be a governor one day. No, you're not gonna be anything. They control, they select who they want to be in those positions. And you better believe when you are in those positions, you are a puppet. They have their hands stuck up your ass and you're gonna say what they want. They're gonna puppet you to death. You're gonna read your scripts and you're gonna go home. That's what it is, folks. So yeah, man, that's it's unfortunate. It's gonna be very difficult for us to see who our enemy is, because we're infighting. We're fighting amongst ourselves. There's civil unrest amongst the human race, and it all goes back to the Tower of Babel. When you break up the languages, you separate the people, and you cause confusion. Thousands of years later, here we are today. We still can't come together, because at one point we were coming together, and the God that you guys serve said, oh, I can't have these people coming together. If they come together, there's nothing that they can't do. There's nothing that they set their minds to that they won't be able to do. So that means there's this divine being or this extraterrestrial being that's not actually a God, but that you guys serve and you guys call God. You guys call Elohim or Yahweh. He's actually the evil God that's oppressing you, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother damn day. He said it himself, out of his own mouth. My spirit won't strive with man. When he says his spirit, he means that the DNA molecules that these Anunnaki beings inserted in us, he's going to augment it. He's going to change it to where man doesn't live that long. But not only that, I'm going to change your languages. I'm going to confuse them. You say, how do they do that? I don't know how the F they did it. I wasn't there. But they had the technology to do it. I can't explain their tech. It's alien. I don't know it. I don't major in that stuff. But just because I don't understand something doesn't mean that it didn't happen. There are different realms and different dimensions that exist. And each realm and each dimension, they have certain tools that we don't have here. And most of the tech that we're getting here, we are getting them from extraterrestrial. They're extraterrestrial tech. Humans aren't that innovative. We're not that smart to create things from scratch. We are getting help from extraterrestrials because we're giving them human organs, and we're allowing humans to be trafficked, being taken to these underground tunnels in the United States of America. They're taking people in these underground tunnels, and they're running experiments on them. And so in exchange for humans, the American government are getting weapons from these extraterrestrials. You don't have to believe me. But just because you don't believe me doesn't mean it's not true. All right. Till next time, guys. Take care. Peace. Leave a comment to me what you guys think.